Welcome to the Folkkeeper's Hearth, where timeless tales and ancient lore come alive. Gather round as we explore the myths, legends, and fables that have been passed down through the generations, keeping us connected to our ancestors and the old ways. Do you have your cup of tea? Have you pulled up a chair? It is time. Let us begin. The Heroes of Asgard. Chapter 1, Part 3. Niflheim. Now in the city of Asgard dwelt one called Loki, who, though counted among the Aesir, was not of their kind. For to do wrong and neglect the right was, day and night, his tireless pursuit. How he came amongst the Aesir no one knew, nor even whence he came. Once, when Odin questioned him on the subject, Loki stoutly declared that there had been a time when he was innocent and noble-purposed like the Aesir themselves. Far beyond the light of the gods' realm, where shadow and strange fates entwine, Loki had wandered. There, in a place forgotten by most, he came upon the half-burnt heart of a mighty woman. No tale tells whose heart it was, nor how it came to smolder there, whether it belonged to a giantess of old, a seeress of strange power, or one bound to darker destinies. Yet Loki, ever hungry for wisdom and strength, consumed it. From this wild and fateful act sprang daughters of fierce and shadowed nature, ancient and powerful women, woven with magic and primal force. Some say they became the mothers of sorcery and storm, fierce and untamed as the night winds. Thus were Loki's line and legacy bound, not only to beasts and monstrous sons, but to hidden powers that would echo throughout the ages. As this was too fearful a story for anyone to wish to hear twice over, Odin never questioned him again. Yet what is clear is that Loki, through this strange union of shadow and hunger, became tied to forces both wild and fateful, far beyond the ordered halls of Asgard. Whilst the Aesir were building their city, Loki, instead of helping them, had been continually running over to Jotunheim to make friends among the giants and witches of the place. Among the witches, there was one so fierce and fell in nature that it seemed even Loki might shun her. Yet he did not, for he took this giantess, Angerboda, as his wife, and they dwelt together long, their wild and restless spirits only sharpening each other's might and malice. From their union came 3 children, destined to stir dread and upheaval among gods and men alike. They were beings of deep power and portent, destined to play great roles in the turning of the ages. Though many later would call them dreadful, in the elder days they were but part of the woven threads of fate, as necessary to the world's story as sunlight and shadow alike. The eldest was Jormungand, a monstrous serpent. The second, Fenrir, most ferocious of wolves. The third was Hela, half corpse, half queen. When Loki and his witch-wife looked at their fearful progeny, they thought within themselves, "What would the Aesir say if they could see?" "But they cannot see," said Loki, "and lest they should suspect witch-wife, I will go back to Asgard for a little while and salute old Father Odin bravely as if I had no secret here." So saying, Loki wished his wife good morning, bade her hide the children securely indoors, and set forth on the road to Asgard. But all the time he was traveling, Loki's children went on growing, and long before he had reached the lofty city, Jormungand had become so large that his mother was obliged to open the door to let his tail out. At first it hung only a little way across the road, but he grew. Oh, how fearfully Jormungand grew! But in a single day he grew from one end of Jotunheim to the other, and early next morning began to shoot out in the direction of Asgard. Luckily, however, just at that moment, Odin caught sight of him, when from the top of Airthrone the eyes of this vigilant ruler were taking their morning walk. "Now," said Odin, "it is quite clear, Frigga, that I must remain in idleness no longer at Asgard, for monsters are bred up in Jotunheim, and the earth has need of me." So saying, Odin descended at once from Airthrone and passed through Asgard's golden gates, setting foot upon Midgard's soil. There he went forth to face the powers of Jotunheim, striving to overcome its monstrous forces and perilous might. In his journeyings, Odin mixed freely with the people of the lands through which he passed, shared with them toil and pleasure, war and grief, taught them out of his own large experience, inspired them with his noble thoughts, and exalted them by his example. Even to the oldest he could teach much, and in the evening, when the labors of the day were ended, and the sun cast slanting rays upon the village green, it was pleasant to see the sturdy village youths grouped round that noble chief, hanging open-mouthed upon his words, as he told them of his great fight with the giant of long ago, and then pointing towards Jotunheim, explained to them how that fight was not yet over, for that giants and monsters grew round them on every side, and they too might do battle bravely, and be heroes and Aesir of the earth. One evening, after thus drinking in his burning words, they all trooped together to the village smithy, and Odin forged for them all night arms and armor, instructing them at the same time in their use. In the morning he said, "Farewell, children. I have further to go than you can come, but do not forget me when I am gone, nor how to fight as I have taught you. Never cease to be true and brave. Never turn your arms against one another, and never turn them away from the giant and the oppressor." Then the villagers returned to their homes and their field labor, and Odin pressed on, through trackless uninhabited woods, up silent mountains, over the lonely ocean, until he reached that strange, mysterious meeting place of sea and sky. There, brooding over the waters like a grey sea fog, sat Mimir, guardian of the well where wit and wisdom lie hidden. "Mimir," said Odin, going up to him boldly, "let me drink of the waters of wisdom." "Truly, Odin," answered Mimir, "it is a great treasure that you seek, and one which many have sought before, but who, when they knew the price of it, turned back." Then replied Odin, "I would give my right hand for wisdom willingly." "Nay," rejoined the remorseless Mimir, "it is not your right hand, but your right eye you must give." Odin was very sorry when he heard the words of Mimir, and yet he did not deem the price too great, for plucking out his right eye and casting it from him, he received in return a draught of the fathomless deep. As Odin gave back the horn into Mimir's hand, he felt as if there were a fountain of wisdom springing up within him, an inward light, for which you may be sure he never grudged having given his perishable eye. Now also he knew what it was necessary for him to do in order to become a really noble Asa, and that was to push on to the extreme edge of the earth itself and peep over into Niflheim. Odin knew it was precisely that he must do, and precisely that he did. Onward and northward he went over ice-bound seas, through twilight, fog, and snow, right onward in the face of winds that were like swords, until he came into the unknown land, where sobs and sighs and sad unfinished shapes were drifting up and down. "Then," said Odin thoughtfully, "I have come to the end of all creation, and a little further on Niflheim must lie." Accordingly he pushed on further and further, until he reached the earth's extremest edge, where, lying down and leaning over from its last cold peak, he looked into the gulf below. It was Niflheim. At first Odin imagined that it was only empty darkness, but after hanging there 3 nights and days, his eye fell on one of Yggdrasil's mighty stems. Yggdrasil was the old earth tree whose roots sprang far and wide from Jotunheim, from above, and this, the oldest of the 3, out of Niflheim. Odin looked long upon its time-worn, knotted fibers, and watched how they were forever gnawed by Nidhogg, the envious serpent, and his brood of poisonous diseases. Then he wondered what he should see next, and one by one spectres arose from Nastrond, the shore of corpses. Arose and wandered pale, naked, nameless, and without a home. Then Odin looked down deeper into the abyss of abysses, and saw all its shapeless, nameless ills, whilst far below him, deeper than Nastrond, Yggdrasil and Nidhogg, roared Hvergelmir, the boiling cauldron of evil. So Odin hung upon the edge of the worlds, peering into the veiled realm of Niflheim, where frost and shadow whispered secrets of the deep past and the distant future. Yet in the elder tales told long before the written word, it is said that Odin's seeking did not end there. Some spoke of how the All-Father gave himself to himself, hanging for 9 nights upon the great world tree Yggdrasil, wounded by his own spear. Alone and unsheltered, he journeyed beyond life and death to seize the runes, the hidden threads of fate and magic. Through this great and terrible sacrifice, Odin won wisdom deeper still, a gift and burden that would shape the ages to come. And so Odin, now burdened with the heavy truths of the world's deep places, turned his steps towards Jotunheim. Wisdom, though dearly won, does not come without sorrow, and in the silence that follows sacrifice, even the gods must sigh. Yet his journey was not ended. Dark portents awaited him still, for in the shadowed lands he would soon behold the fateful children of Loki, beings whose paths were bound to shape doom and destiny alike. Join me next time as Odin comes face to face with these strange and mighty offspring, and the tale turns toward trials yet to come. Thank you for joining me for this Northern tale, based on the retellings found in the Heroes of Asgard by Annie and Eliza Keary, a public domain work first published in the 19th century. This is just the beginning of our journey through the old tales of the Aesir. We'll return to their stories in future episodes, weaving them in among other myths and legends from across the folk traditions of Northern Europe. Until next time, may the old ways guide you, and may the voices of our ancestors never fade.